get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Join the data revolution on peoplespundit.locals.com, where you get information 6 months before the New York Times posts it in its opinion and on its hard news sections. Today in the New York Times, I should have said Times. I think I said Post.
Yes.
Today in the New York Times, they talked about how the unvaccinated and the hesitant are not Trump supporters. They are not solely Trump supporters. White evangelicals, Christians of all shapes and sizes, Southern NASCAR drivers, and watchers of the deadliest catch. They went a little bit more detail, but if you are a member of the locals community, then you know what the New York Times just now told you 6 months later. If you watch and follow the Public Polling Project, then you already knew what the New York Times just decided to tell you, which is that this is not a pandemic of the unvaccinated. It is a pandemic of the elderly and unhealthy. And the vaccine hesitant population is much more diverse and much more complicated than the media and the now grossly incompetent Biden administration would have you believe. Moving on to such news. More bad economic news this week. Consumer Price Index, the CPI, for inflation, up 4% in September, another 4%. After a couple of months ago, we saw the largest gain in 4 decades, then the largest gain the month after in 3 decades. And now here we are again, now in the 80s, right before Ronald Reagan had to clean up Jimmy Carter's malaise mess. 0.4 of a percentage point, food and shelter are among the highest indexes to rise. Isn't that nice? So not only is inflation soaring at a pace that this fake distorted wage data certainly cannot keep pace with, but food and shelter, the bottom rung on Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are among the highest rate of increases in the CPI. The producer price index is up another 0.5 point in September. Goods rose 1.3. Services only rose 0.2. So again, very good for the I hate orange man bad. Let me sign up and join a panel poll because I'm on Zoom all day and I sit in my underwear and pool on my tubing, so I really love shutdowns. Very good for that crowd. Not so good for the rest of us. And for those who don't know, and today, a little deeper into those numbers, import prices are up 0.4 of a percentage point, meaning how much more now are we paying for goods that we are importing into our country? And you're supposed to compare that with export prices. How much is everyone else paying for ours? Exports are only up 0.1 of a percentage point. Imports are up 4 times the amount. So for those who don't know what the CPI looks like, what does that mean? Here's the entire CPI as plotted by us. All right, this is the CPI for all indexes. You will notice the 2020 little bar there. Yes, it is true that the pandemic shutdown, which has now led to this, this is still a recession. I don't give a damn. If Donald Trump was in office, look, numbers aren't partisan. So don't you dare send me your stupid little comments about partisan speeches and rants. Numbers aren't partisan. Data don't lie. People do. People, including the media, people, including their preferred party, and people, including the sad excuse for an opposition party who is watching all of this happen. They lie. Numbers don't. That's why I love numbers so much. It's why I love math so much. Mm-hmm. Sure, you could take statistics and betray them and portray them incorrectly by cherry picking them. But that's why I'm showing you everything here. And then we will zoom in a little bit closer. So take your little dumb messages about partisanship and stick them up your you know what. This is now a matter of you are hurting people. How much are you hurting people? Mommy and daddy. You better ask Junior for their Santa lists a little bit early this year because the shelves are empty and 11 miles worth of cargo ships are sitting outside the LA port while the Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, is out on maternity leave for 2 months. God bless Rick Grinnell. He got that job because he's gay. Because he's the first Democratic presidential hopeful who is gay, openly gay, to run for president. So he got it as a virtue signal, not because of any of his qualifications, his resume, or anything. And this is what happens when you give people opportunities. You give people responsibilities based on stupid little virtue signals, instead of their qualifications. Mommy and daddy, you better ask Junior for their lists a little bit early this year. Walk them down to Macy's and if it's still open by you, and have them put it in the Santa box 2 months early this year because you may not get it in time. In fact, you probably won't get it in time. So unless you want to wrap up a shoebox with an IOU in it from Joe Biden, you better ask for that list early if you can even afford it in the first place. This is the Consumer Price Index. You can clearly see Joe Biden is responsible for this. The team around this dementia patient is responsible for this. This is only getting worse. I would hammer anybody the same. I don't care if it's George Bush, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders. If you're this incompetent, if you took 8 months to destroy the American economy and put us on a trajectory for failure and poverty, I would be yelling at you too. Numbers don't lie. People do. Need a closer look at this? Here's the 1 year. In fact, go back to the all and you can see why it started out so damn low in September of 20. Because you could see at the end of Donald Trump's term, it dipped. It returned and leveled out before Joe Biden won the election. It began to soar after Joe Biden took the reins of the office. Look at January 21st, ladies and gentlemen. It was leveled out on a steady, normal 0.2 of an average gain every month. It dipped because of the pandemic. It surged post-shutdown for 1.5 months, not even 2, if you look into the report from Bureau of Labor Statistics. And then it began to ascend at a historically normal pace. Joe Biden takes the reins and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. You know what? Today, actually, I saw $800 in my checking account that I didn't notice before. Another payment from Joe Biden because I have children. Joe, you can take that $800 and wipe your wife's you-know-what with it. Because I don't want $800. I don't want a token $800 check from the government. I want to earn. I'm a working man. I want to earn $8,000 this month, not your lousy $800. I just don't want you to bankrupt my clientele before I have a chance to do that. I'm over the lying to the American public. I'm over the lying to the public about the economy, about taxes, about what's in this bill, about elections. I'm over it because at this point, you're hurting everybody else. Well, you're okay. Must be nice. Well, let me give you a little reality check anyway. Because if the rest of us go down, there's no one left to pay your stank-ass salary. Because we make the world go around, not you. You're a parasite. You live off of the wealth of the rest of us. You live off of the hard work, the sweat, and the tears of the rest of us. You do nothing. You produce nothing. You're good for nothing. You're wreckers of lives and great. You are the wreckers of lives and civilization. That's all you are. You play little games with your stupid little crackpot theories that you think up in a classroom, if you even make it through college, Joe. And then you test them out on the rest of us. I'm tired of it. But you know what? The government you elect is the government you deserve. Now, you all know how I feel about November 2020. Speaking of big lies. Universal mail-in voting was never the same thing as absentee voting, as we have seen it in Florida, Arizona, and many other states before November 2020. That was the very first big lie. That this was going to be the same. So I'm not ready to concede it, but let's face it. There were people who decided this was a better route to go. And this is what they gave. And this is the fruit of that decision. So some people, at least, have to bear the burden that they share.
You reap what you sow.
You reap what you sow. And this index, when we do the next survey, which you can support at bigdatapoll.com/public polling project. We're going to be doing it soon because I want to get it done before the holidays. Because I don't want to pressure anyone else's wallet more than Joe Biden already has done before the holidays. They won't, unless something rapidly changes. It's not going to. Would you like to hear the last slew of economic news? Export prices up 0.1 of a percentage point. Import prices up 0.4 of a percentage point. Productivity only 2%. The employment cost index 0.7, up 0.7. So it actually costs more for employment for employers to have employees. The producer price index, final demand, half a percentage point up. Average hourly earnings only 19 cents, even though that's grossly distorted. It's not even real. Payroll employment up less than 200,000, even though many people were expecting twice as much. That's a pathetic number in what is supposed to be a rebounding economy. And it's not just that. It is the quality of these jobs. The quality. Under Donald Trump, we were becoming a goods-producing economy again. Not only does that pay more, ladies and gentlemen, it's good for national security. You cannot have the Chinese manufacturing everything you need to defend yourself. And that's more than, I'm not talking about weapons and plane components and all sorts of stuff. I'm talking about, look, pharmaceuticals, personal protective equipment. How did that work out for us when they unleashed when Dr. Fauci and his Chinese friends unleashed a virus on the rest of us? Did China rise to the occasion? Did they crank their economy in overdrive to make sure their American friends were going to be okay? No. They were like, you know what? At least 500,000 of those dead people are going to be older. Don't they skew towards Trump? Woo! It's a win-win.
I'm telling you.
So win-win.
From day one.
You know what? We should have our hack reporters at the New York Times write up a couple pieces too about beds not being accessible. And maybe Andrew Cuomo will send a bunch of old people to their deaths at nursing homes. Consumer Price Index, the CPI, again, 0.4 percentage point. The unemployment rate is 4.8, but the real unemployment, U6, refuses to budge, basically holding almost nearly statistically almost unchanged since Donald Trump handed Joe Biden the keys. In fact, post shutdown, the U6 rate fell under Trump and Pence 5 times the rate that it fell under Obama and Biden after the Great Recession. It took 5 years over a 2-term presidency to watch the U6 rate as much as it fell in 5 months under Donald Trump. Data don't lie. People do. Go look it up. And by the way, these mandates won't be they're not going to help the situation much at all. Look at Boeing now. They'll have a walkout soon. Hat tip, Jack Poso, Human Events. The police department has joined the fire department in Raleigh, North Carolina. They will sue. Spirit Airlines probably saw the thousands of retweets we got on that one tweet about you know who took you know what and ended up you know how. They backed away from it. Thank God. Because the resistance to this, in the end, ironically, all of the cheerleaders said, well, the private sector will just have to comply. They'll just have to comply. Look at how many airline workers were afraid of being fired. So they just, they complied. So much for resistance. In the end, it turns out that state-level civil servants may be the key to this. They are the ones who may end up turning the tide. Which makes sense because they have protections that private sector workers don't have. Why? Because big government gave it to them. Ironically, those very people supported these mandates more than their counterparts in the private sector. I imagine they just figured with Joe at the helm, it wouldn't end up on them. Mm-hmm. Well, stupid you.
You didn't think that one through.
One word. Suckers. But still, if you want to join the ranks, knock yourself out, welcome to take you. Anyway, 20 minutes in, I want to leave a nice long Q&A today. So I'm going to, because we'll have Don on as well. Oh, how could I forget? Before we go into the special election in Iowa, which I have to hit. I wanted to hit it yesterday, but I gotta hit it today. You may not. You're about to see in the flesh the kind of person who is thriving in this economy, while everyone else is sucking wind. You're about to see one of them suck wind, but not because their pockets are hurting, but because they're literally living high on the hog one of those parasites that we were talking about before. The difference is they don't feel they have to be held accountable for anything. You do. You don't comply with mandate over this or a mandate over that, you're held accountable. Joe Biden doesn't like that $600 transaction and sends the IRS after you, you'll be held accountable. They don't like the sound of my voice or the tone on this video, and I'll be held accountable. But they lie to millions of people in the American public and the national corporate media, and they're not held accountable.
Are you Vanessa? Vanessa Gelman, I'm a reporter with Project Veritas.
Vanessa Gelman, who works in Washington, D.C., is Senior Director of Worldwide Research. From Vanessa Gelman.
From the perspective of corporate affairs, we want to avoid having the information on the fetal cell line floating out there. We believe that the risk of communicating this right now outweighs any potential benefit that we could see, particularly with general members of the public who may take this information and use it in ways we may not want it out there.
Miss, why did you send emails telling Pfizer employees not to report that you guys were using fetal cell lining, miss? What else are you hiding from the public? Miss, what else are you hiding from the public? The public needs to know. Well, there you have it. We wanted to ask her a few questions. She broke out into a sprint. We really think that the public needs to know about the fetal cell lining emails. And we tried to get a comment. She ran. Sometimes they don't want to answer for the fraud that they're committing or the corruption that's going on. We try our best, and the really only question now is who's next.
Run, Vanessa, run!
Feet don't fail
Run!
you now.
Feet don't... Run, Vanessa Gum! Run! Feet don't fail her now! That's the first time that woman ran in a long time. And look at the mansion she ran into. Look at the mansion. Oh my goodness. You know, as soon as she got through that front door, she fell on her face, man. Oh. That's Project Veritas following up on a report that they did before. An email from Vanessa, who is the Senior Director of Worldwide Research. All right, there it is, Vanessa Gum. Senior Director of Worldwide Research. She ran from the Project Veritas reporter who was asked a question based on a report, a follow-up report that they did, which a whistleblower came forward, and you read the email. You saw what the email said. Prior trials, I think it's a little unclear where we are. Is it what's on the... but this is why you're supposed to answer questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear the emails show what they are. Nobody in Pfizer is questioning the veracity of emails. Believe me, we asked. Nobody is questioning the veracity of the content of those emails. The bottom line for me is that what ended up in the final product? And still, even still, there is an argument to be made that there still could be a religious exemption based on the fact that the product might have been developed using... I'm not going to get... it makes me physically ill to talk about. Like, look, if a fetus or, an aborted baby is gone, I understand, wanting to put everything to use. The problem is, it's an industry. This is part of the reason why they push abortion so much. It's not just the tax dollars that come from you. That was always a lie, by the way. All right?
Mm-hmm.
That act was an act, all right. That was always a lie. And people like Joseph R. Biden, by the way, used to claim they were Catholic and pro-life because they supported that act. That's a joke. If I am a smoker and I ask you to give me $5 for a pack of cigarettes, all right? And you tell me, no, I don't want to support your smoking habit. And I say, okay, well, how about you give me $10 for food and a drink? And then I go into the corner market, and instead, since you weren't giving me $10 for a pack of cigarettes, you were giving me $10 for food and drink. But instead, I decide when I'm in there, I'm just going to get a soda and a bag of chips, and I'm going to take the other $7 and I'm going to buy a pack of cigarettes. Did you or did you not still buy my pack of cigarettes? Mm-hmm. So regardless of what we say the money can be used for, if they're taking funds that they privately fundraise themselves, and they are putting that toward abortion, then they are not putting it towards other things that they're now taking your money to support. So you have, in fact, still bought their abortions. That was always the fraud. That was a massive fraud. You still supported abortions. And the problem with this entire industry is that they're not just trying to be there for women, folks. There are no mammograms at Planned Parenthood. That is a joke. I think when they first made that claim, the entire, it's like they own one machine or something, right? It's a joke. They encourage it because they then profit off of the remains, which we do know is true. And by the way, you catch them undercover video, and Kamala Harris will make sure that you're held accountable for that. Because you can't tell the truth on the record.
Oh my god, I hope this is wrong. Read this.
So, you never know. I mean, I'll read it live. It's Freewheeling Friday. Yeah, I just caught half of the paragraph. I'm a very fast reader. So what happens is I don't actually read sentence by sentence. I take a picture in my mind of the paragraph, and then I'm trying to give people tips. All right? Flashkin, if you're in the locals live, I'm not going to, go on to this. If you're in the locals live, you can read what Flashkin just said, but it is worse than people actually say it is. And that Flashkin, that's actually been the argument all along. And when other people have been caught doing this, that there was a whistleblower, by the way, to Project Veritas about that very thing, which is that, in fact, some of these facilities deliver these organisms, their babies, alive, because some of the things that they harvest need to be harvested while the organism is still alive. And it's work. There are many. Look, again, it makes me sick to my stomach. I don't like talking about it because as you get older, you realize that life really is precious, and who the hell are you to be snuffing it out? We're this supposed advanced civilization, and we can't find out what to do with babies that aren't wanted by their mothers. It just is ridiculous to me. I understand a girl who, a woman, a young woman, a girl, whatever it may be, who is scared and doesn't know what to do. It is not for me to judge I personally, my own belief is that society failed her and that child because we didn't give her an option. We didn't make her feel like she had other options. And unfortunately, she felt that her best option was to terminate a human life that I don't believe is ours to terminate. It's precious. We get one of them. It's gone like that. We're all here within one quick little moment in time. Who the hell are we to snuff that little moment out? Who the hell do we think we are? So when they say, those Bible-thumping fanatics, abortion is murder. No, murder is murder. It has nothing to do with spiritual belief. You can hold life precious and not be a Bible thumper and still see the comparison. It's a matter of how much value you put on human life. That really is what it comes down to. All right? And this woman running from this, knowing, look, here's the bottom line. She knows, and other executives at the company know damn well that they already had a fight on their hands already when it came to this. And they knew damn well that this would turn the minds. Look, you have Pastor Jeffries out there right now like an idiot. With all due respect, Pastor. Actually, I don't have a reason to respect you. You have to earn my respect like everybody else. I don't know you, sir. But I do hear your public service announcements in between news breaks. Did you know about this? Because like I said, what the problem lies in this. They knew they could never get Pastor Jeffries. They knew they could never get the good pastor to go do those public service announcements without him losing his megachurch congregation if they knew that's how this was developed. Even people who, and I talk to them every day, even people who are responsible adults, they made the decision. I'm going to do this. I'm going to listen to my doctor. I'm going to listen to public health officials. They wouldn't have gotten it if they knew this. The religious exemption issue as a matter of law would have been, this to me is the major problem. They withheld that information and it absolutely was pertinent to this debate. And now you're not allowed to ask them questions? The emails are the emails. You know, this Washington Post tactic all the time, every time James O'Keefe releases a video, well, he doctors stuff. You're going to keep citing something from 15 years ago? I mean, how long are you going to keep doing this? Is this video doctored or not? Nobody is accusing him of doing it in this video or any video recently. Nobody is accusing him of deceptively editing. This is an interview with a whistleblower. Nobody denies she worked for the company. Nobody denies the veracity of the emails. So there can't be a class of people in this country who just decide, I'm not going to answer any questions. But that is apparently the environment and the culture we're trying to foster right now, which is the only reason why Joe Biden would think it's okay to give Andrew McCabe his pension back. After Attorney General Jeff Sessions decided he wasn't honorable enough. The Inspector General of the Justice Department concluded that Andrew McCabe knowingly lied. You can use whatever term you want at Maine Justice. I'm not going to play that game. He's a liar. He lied under oath. And a man that both sides call a fair man, Michael Horowitz, is not a partisan person. In fact, he's a Democrat. Can we just lay that out there? He's not overly partisan. Nobody's accused him of being so. He concluded, his office concluded that Andrew McCabe is a lying scumbag who doesn't deserve to have the taxpayer whom he betrayed pay him and his winner of a wife any amount of money so they can continue the lifestyle that they've been able to enjoy on your dime. Mm-hmm. Again, he's a lying parasite. And Joe Biden thinks that this liar of this parasitic creature who can't even be honest with the people, bite the hand that feeds argument, guys. You ever hear that? Apparently my child was in here. Oh, you need me to open it? Okay. Yeah, he couldn't even be honest with the people who support him. There you go. It's all right. It's okay. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. So there you have it. There you have it. All right, let's get some related questions here in on time. I will just answer this. Somebody asked me, and I didn't get it last episode. Do I think when we went over this? BLS, the number of quits increased in August to 4.3 million plus 242,000. The quits rate increased to a series high of 2.9. And somebody asked me whether or not I think the mandates had something to do with it. Well, I mean, some of the impact of the mandates in August probably anticipation, but I think in the end, it's the overall policy. We know that everyone knew the mandates were coming. Yeah, the school year starting, right? We're coming around the corner. And I think in the end, people just said, you know what? They're already making this an environment that's just easier for me to sit on my butt. I think I'll do that. It's not upward mobility because the number of job openings did what? So these aren't people that are, saying, I'm moving sideways, I'm moving up, I'm moving down. No, they're not moving in the labor force at all. They're bailing on it. And they won't be counted in the unemployment rate soon. Labor participation will come down. It did, in fact. It's unchanged. That's what they say. Largely unchanged when it's down 0.2 of a percentage point. And I think that the worst is yet to come. Which is why I opened up this show flipping out. Because, folks, the worst is yet to come. Listen, heart to heart here. As a guy who now does numbers, as a guy who has used this for politics, for financial gain on Wall Street, who has worked for other companies to help them financially gain on Wall Street, we just have a little heart to heart. This is not investment advice. You better prepare.
Yes.
Cut back on things that you don't need, folks. Be smart with your money right now.
Be frugal.
And this is coming from me, who relies like the public polling project is funded by you. Don't overextend yourself. Be frugal. We have the holidays coming, and I was dead serious. Parents, I was dead serious.
You
Get
better
an
go
early
shopping
jump.
now. Yeah.
Get an early jump, because you don't want to be in a bad position. And I'm going to be, you don't want to have to rely on the big guy too much. Okay? This is a family show. You don't have to rely on the big guy too much.
In red and white.
You want to do your own part. All right? Don't leave your kid looking out the window for the red nose and an empty tree because you didn't prepare. No, I'm serious. This is how serious I am.
But the image you gave me was
Food, if you see something that your household uses, and you can get a good sale on it, a good deal on it, get it before the shelf is empty, and then they charge you even more for it. That's how we've been shopping. Do I absolutely need mayonnaise right now? No, but it's like 2 for $5. And I haven't seen it on the shelf consistently for a month and a half now, so I'm going to get it now. Ketchup. Ugh.
Leave my
Ketchup
alone.
Ketchup is nasty.
No, it is.
But I'm
not.
serious. I'm deadly serious. And cut back on things you absolutely don't need. Unless, hey, you're independently wealthy, then you don't have to listen to me. I'm talking to the vast majority of Americans. Be smart, because the worst is yet to come. This isn't getting any better. It's not. There's nothing to suggest. No amount of $800 stinking payments Joe Biden puts in your bank account or sends and puts in your mailbox, that's not going to do it. There is no evidence, none, zero, zip, in the history of American economics. There is no evidence that government stimulus payments have any positive long-term impact on the economy. None. Our problems are structural. They're from a policy, taking a new direction in public policy. The anticipation that new direction is going to lead us down a bad path. The realization that history would suggest it would. And all of these negative emotions and sentiments are compounding. And it's not going to get any better. And the unions got us bent over. The longshoremen, they got us bent over right now. This is horrible. So much for what's in the national good. What's in the national interest? Let's do good for the country. Put personal interests aside. No. Biden's friends are going to see a nice opportunity to exploit a crisis, and they're going to exploit it. I wonder how much that overtime is going to cost. Makes you think it could be by design, right? Pick the dead carcass of a dying superpower. You can get pretty fat. Or at least some people can. Some vultures could get pretty fat off the carcass of a dying superpower. The strongest one in history. Then they'll just move on. All right. Let's hit the comment section. Let's see if I can even find one I could put up. Yeah, we're in trouble, Roman. We're in deep trouble here. Get your oven cleaner. I couldn't find it last year. Look what you think you need. I'm telling you. I'm sorry, kiddo. Santa had to pay 10% to the big guy. That's why Christmas sucks this year. Let's go, Brandon. Nailed it.
Yes.
Nailed it. Let's go, Brandon. Wait, I thought they were saying Joe Biden. Nope. Let's go, Brandon.
Whatever makes you go to sleep at night.
Whatever make right. Right. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Did you see that? I should have uploaded this, but this is an insight into the mind of these people. Did you see that shameless follow-up segment to Joe Rogan's podcast interview with Sanjay Gupta, who is the medical mind over at CNN? All right. He goes on Joe Rogan. He gets his ass handed to him. He's forced to admit his own employer is a liar, basically. That's what Joe did to him. He spun him up. He did it nicely, too, in wit class.
Mm-hmm.
But Sanjay left that interview looking like, I'm a dirtbag in a white coat who works for a larger group of dirtbags who lie and mislead the American public. Then he goes on Don Lemon, also another one who likes to touch people without asking. All right? He goes on Don Lemon and tries to again assert that CNN was not lying about the therapeutic treatment that Joe Rogan's, opted to take. And Gupta doesn't correct him and goes along with him. So here's Gupta, 1 minute, 1 day, literally within a 72-hour period. Here's Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN, on Joe Rogan, admitting that CNN lies to their viewers about, and did lie, and used Joe Rogan to lie. And then, here he is on Don Lemon. This is the window to Don. Clearly, what everybody was saying came through in Joe Rogan, which is that you lied about the broad uses of this therapy, what it could be used for. You classified it as something that it is not. It's like having 5 uses for something, but solely defining that thing by one use and in one form. You're a liar and a piece of garbage. You're one of the reasons why we're in this problem we're in now. Because you're an ideologue. And ideologues are dangerous. Always have been dangerous. They're fanatical. And they sacrifice anyone and anything at the altar of their ideology. And they don't give a damn who it hurts. They don't care what damage they're doing. All that matters to them is that the lies that their ideology is built upon survive. Let's
We got some questions.
Yeah, Gupta's a piece of crap. That's right, XI. He's a piece of crap. He's a liar and a piece of crap. Exactly the same type of person. Speaking out both sides of their mouth, pandering to whatever audience they're in front of. They have no principles, no ethics, and shouldn't be anywhere near a position of authority. Courtney, I mean, that really, that's funny. But in all seriousness, that really depends on your own personal situation. We try, honestly, to do what we can for long term, but our resources aren't infinite, and it matters what, that your resources are, So as far as food goes, we always try to have, some prep kit that's good for, a couple months. We got children, I mean.
I think she means, how much should she be squirreling away for, as long as Biden's administration?
How long should you be taking precautions?
Yes.
I mean, always. But at this point, until we see some dramatic change in the structural challenges to this economy, and we're not going to see that anytime soon. So it's a long haul thing. Do I hope that next summer we're booming? Yeah. But I see no evidence that's going to happen.
As we like to say, expect for the worst, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But Jim has a question over abortion. Do people that have abortions regret that decision? Do they become pro-life? And are working class people more likely to keep a baby than a 20-year-old liberal college sorority? Oh my God, sorority.
I'm not sure the work we did back. That was going back to a little after Kermit Gosnell was in the news. So we did some work like that a while ago. It was after the trial of Kermit Gosnell, and I'm not sure it would be. I mean, I could tell you some of the things we found. I'm just not sure we would find the same today. But there is no doubt that both proportionately and as total, we actually did find minorities with which was scary, because it's like, if you're 13% of the population, should you be 60% of total abortions or 65%? It was without a doubt, abortions were directed disproportionately toward black females. Now I'd say minorities, but if we were going to single one out, it was black females. And the urban versus rural doesn't surprise me, because they did that by design. It is harder for a black female to get an abortion in rural America than it is for, or not harder, widely accessible in an urban center versus a rural area. That's just true. That was intentional. Planned Parenthood did that by design. And then the white people, what we really did find was, it doesn't get used as a like, oh, I don't have enough money, I can't raise this kid. Sadly, that's not what we found. What we found was, I want to go to college. I want to finish college. I am done with college. I want an advanced degree. This baby would be a burden. That's what we found. I hate to tell you, way too many people used abortion as a contraception, not as a life decision, right? It's simply untrue. Many of the narratives that you hear, I hate to say it, but it is absolutely untrue. And it's sad. It's sad. And in fact, I'm not going to say who it is, but after we did that, I learned of somebody who I knew who basically just went out and had a one-night stand. And she had children. Was in between like a divorce, and just decided, I'm going to abort it, because I just wanted to be like careless for the night. I'm in a midlife crisis and having a divorce. I'm going to go out and be reckless while I have children at home. And then I'm going to go out when I find out I'm pregnant later. I'm going to abort it. By the way, no rush, because I live in a state where, I got a lot of time to do it. As long as it's before it's a burden on my body. It's despicable. The reality is not what they say, right, Laura? What about rape and incest? Do you have any idea how many people told us they aborted a baby because of rape or incest? It was unmeasurable. Unmeasurable. You have to target populations you wouldn't even be able to poll in a public polling project. Say we targeted 2,000 registered voters. If we asked them about this, you would first narrow down a subsample who even had an abortion. The sample size of a survey like this to find somebody like that would be enormous. I'm telling you, we wouldn't even find one girl in a 2,000 registered voter sample. You wouldn't. Folks, we're talking about like the COVID death rate small, right? Right? Under 65 COVID death rate small. It's nil. It doesn't happen. And in fact, for that, we actually spoke to a woman who opted not to have an abortion. That was like 10 years ago we did this, right? When was Gosnell? 11? 2011? It was like almost 10 years ago, right? So...
And then we found out that teens, in fact, are more willingly to keep...
Now, younger people now are much more willing to keep the pregnancy, even if they're working class, than it was during Laura and I's generation. Like, and then, I don't want to date... Well, I just turned 40. So, like, much more so in the 21st century, in 2010 to 2012 era, was women, younger girls, were much more willing to keep it, especially working class families, than it was during the 90s. All right. And also we spoke to, you remember, she was in fact raped and got pregnant, chose to keep the child, did not tell him that he was a product of rape, grew up to become a police officer. Just an incredible... Do you remember that? Just an incredible... You got goosebumps. Just an incredible story. And he had no idea he was a product of rape. Now he's a man. He grew up to be a man who protects women against these aggressions, because that's what he handles primarily. Domestic violence, special victims. It's just incredible. It was an incredible story. Look, guys, even alpha dudes out there, it was hard. Tell you right now. It was hard not to like tear up. It was just an incredible life story. So when we did finally find one, she opted to keep it. So it's an even smaller subsample the more you drill down. So when you finally drill down on people who've had an abortion, okay, fine. Then what was your purpose of your abortion? Okay, fine. That's tiny already when you get to the rape and incest issues. That's already very, very tiny. Then when you finally drill down into that tiny, tiny, tiny subgroup, you got to find one who decided, it's just to go that way. You could find people who say, yes, I have been a victim of sexual assault, or I was a victim of incest, or whatever it may be. Okay, did you have an abortion? No. Okay, well, there it goes that. You're not in that subgroup now. I mean, it's just an amazing... I wouldn't be able to find... It would be hard to poll because I wouldn't be able to find one. That's how small these numbers are. And yet they dominate the conversation. It's very dishonest.
I mean, it's the way they do it,
They do it on purpose, Laura.
The 3% overrule the rest of the world.
That's right. And not even 3 in this case. You know that. And in fact, let me just show something real quick. Okay. Let me just show... I mean, we can do both. Can I do both? Yeah, here we go. Let me share screen. It's part of the news that I wanted to do anyway, but I couldn't get out of the economic. We got the ruling from the Texas Appellate Court. They decided they would, in fact, allow Texas to go forward, as people wanted that to be. Folks, you know that. After a heartbeat has been detected is the clear, correct way. You don't give them a time frame because most people don't know this stuff. So just being as honest as possible, do you support abortion when a heartbeat has been detected? The fact of the matter is, nationally, only 32.1% of people told us yes, 46.7%. Look at the news coverage now, and you would never realize that it is the gross minority if you just told them after a heartbeat has been detected. Not that it's within a certain amount of weeks or whatever, even though many, I'm sure, can infer it, right, Laura? I mean, how many people do you think are knowledgeable enough to know that it's very early in the pregnancy when a heartbeat is detected? You think most women would know that? Most women.
I don't know. It just depends on what you were really taught.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the area that we grew up in.
Yeah, you would hear quite a bit of it.
You hear differences.
Yep.
It depends on how
That's
religion affects you. It really... environment. So it depends upon your environment. So I can't really say...
And ironically, there was not that much of a difference, though, in sentiment between women and men. That's what... I mean, there was. Ironically, liberal men care more about abortion rights than women. Suburban women are more against abortion during these tested times during the pregnancy that we looked at than urban liberal men who are like, women power. And the women are like, yo, simmer down, beta boy. I can speak for myself. I'm not for executing children in the 8th and 9th month of the pregnancy.
That just blows my mind.
I mean, well, you saw the numbers on that. It was huge. But look at if you cross the pro-life and pro-choice designations. Do you support or oppose abortion being legal during each of the following stages of pregnancy after a heartbeat has been detected? Pro-choice gets like a bare majority, Laura. 53.2% of people who say they are pro-life say they support that. Another 2 in 10 actually oppose it, even though they call themselves pro-life. Pro-choice, excuse me, guys, I'm misspeaking. Yeah. A quarter of pro-choice people don't know what to say. So only 53% supported it. If you're in the pro-life designation, then forget it. 77% oppose it. Only 5% are unsure. It seems to me that if you just look at the numbers, it's not my opinion here. I'm inferring something out of the numbers. Pro-life people are more informed. They are more informed.
It makes more sense.
They're less undecided. They're more informed about what is each term, what does this mean, what is that. They know. While it seems to me, at least a quarter of people who call themselves pro-choice are doing it to be hip or something. Like, I want to be progressive. I want to be tolerant. But they don't actually know what they are signing themselves up for. Look, Look at the numbers. The link's out there. The numbers are the numbers. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay? If you're pro-choice, you consider yourself pro-choice, I think you need to, at least 1 in 4 of you, according to these results, need to ask yourself, am I really pro-choice? Do I support ripping a baby out of the mother's womb in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th month? Do I really? Do I really support terminating a pregnancy when the medical community, which you worship at this current time, don't forget, says that a baby can actually feel it? It is feeling the end of its life.
There's so much more information now.
That's the problem, since even we did that survey.
Yeah.
Science didn't go in the direction
that
they thought it would go in. It helped pro-life. And it seems to me that the recent developments, again, because of the results, not because of my opinion, because of the numbers, the data. The people who are pro-life are more informed about those developments in science than the people who are pro-choice, which is probably why we're getting a relatively even reading now. Whereas during the 90s, when Laura and I grew up, or not grew up, we were old, but older by then, but during the 90s, the pro-choice designation, go look at Gallup, the pro-choice designation was way ahead of pro-life. They were thought to be backward. Yeah. If you're pro-life, you're backward. You're anti-science, you're not progressive enough. And it actually turned out 10, 20, going on now 30 years later, they were wrong. Pro-choicers were backward. They were anti-science. And it seems to me they haven't caught up yet. All right.
Jay Patel wants to know, is Joe Biden's administration doing permanent damage to Democrats?
I'm the kind of guy, Jay, where I don't know that I ever view anything as permanent. You know what I mean? I'm just that kind of guy. Politics, like I always tell you, the only thing you can expect to be consistent about political coalitions is that they are consistently changing. And I'm not sure a party, historically, the only way we've seen a party really kill itself politically is by splitting up and it going wrong. The Whigs vanished overnight, right? Something like that. But I do think there are generational damages that can be done. So Democrats damaged themselves for a generation when they went anti-war in the 60s. Now, that later came back to pay dividends. But look at through the era that went into Nixon. Then Reagan, Carter interrupted briefly, but then got murdered at the ballot box. And Democrats couldn't reclaim the White House until Bill Clinton, which, by the way, how did they do it? Not by winning a majority. Neither time was Bill Clinton ever supported by a majority in this country. Never. He won re-election by a third-party right-wing candidate peeling teens of the vote off. And he still almost lost the first time in 92. He damn near almost lost to George Bush anyway. But Perot definitely plucked that amount off. Now, I'm not saying Perot was a spoiler. Who the hell's to say that? Maybe Herbert Walker Bush was a spoiler. Maybe the Republican Party would have done better in the long run, or the political right in America would have done better in the long run had Ross Perot been the nominee. Because here we are now, and the only man to be able to win the Electoral College, the only platform that man put forward that is popular in the Electoral College is by somebody who is closer to Ross Perot in ideology than George Herbert Walker Bush than he is to George. Look, that's a fact. They may have the same name after them. But the fact of the matter is, he was much more in line. Ross Perot was much more of a national populist than any Republican president outside of Donald Trump has ever been, period. So you can damage him for a generation, specifically on certain issues, but it's very hard to permanently damage a party unless they destroy themselves. And I think in the end, they could just shift policies. Democrats are very good at pretending after they go too far to the left. They're very good at pretending that they're not left-wing anymore, and that was like a small little blip. And then no, we're really moderate. And they go back to pretending to be moderate until they unmask themselves again when they feel comfortable enough to do it. All right. So I don't think something's permanent, but you could certainly do short to mid term damage. And by short, I mean a couple cycles, a cycle or two to 30 years, 20, 30 years. That's a great question. That's a really great question. Can we get one more before the break?
Yeah. This one you're going to have fun with. Does he find, NL wants to know, does he find qualitative or quantitative research to be the more reliable research method? Why and why not?
That's like a whole damn segment. Honestly, it really depends. If you're talking about survey, I don't know how much you know about the methodology in the polling that we conduct, but I think that what it shows is that I do see value in both, and we're talking about specific survey research here, right? Not just like election analysis. Because I do see value in both, and I don't know if you're like one school over the other that you could always be right. You know what I mean? I think you're gonna short. I think you're gonna what's the phrase? You're gonna short yourself. Like you'll be limiting your perspective. Yeah. So that's like, you know what, man? That's like can you write that down? That's like a great entire thing. I'm serious. And I don't know if was that on Locals or was that on?
That was actually on
YouTube. Maybe I'll make some things too on YouTube. But you just gave me a great idea for another little. The problem we haven't done it yet is because like the difference between a sampling error and a confidence interval. All right. We haven't done it yet because we don't have enough ideas. I want like a series of them, and you just gave me another quantitative.
Dude. Thanks, NL.
Actually gave me more ideas because we can explain regression. Projects. We could explain regression too. Can you type that down?
I got it.
Can you add regression to that too? That's real. That was a great question, but it's not one I can answer before break in 2 minutes. So you want to take the break and then we'll come back?
Sure.
Answer is I do think there's value in both. And if you were specifically talking about survey research, then that's what I'm referring to. Now on cephology, that's different.
You just can't.
We can pick. No, I can't. We can. There's that's a totally. I think one is clearly more when we're talking about predicting based on cephology. Then I think one clearly has more value than the other. But man, you know what? Like I said, it's a big one. It's a good one. All right, look. Let's take a break, and then when we come back, we'll answer a few more. Bring on my good friend Don, and go from there. All right? You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Don't forget to, and I don't do this enough, you can still follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit, who, yes, I see, continuously removes our videos. I see that. Even though it's through Media Center now, and they supposedly gave me the ability to be one of those people. But it's not happening. I see it. So Getter is the alternative here. At People's Pundit, I am on Getter. Locals, of course, peoplespundit.locals.com. Look, I mean, I think over time I started to do more responding and talking on Locals.
It's a bad time.
Yeah, and I just feel like there's more value on Locals. Gives more value if you're really trying to hold a conversation. The platform is different, right? And it really is. It's a better vehicle for an actual debate, such as on that. Is he on Locals? Who asked that question? Because I would love to do this on Locals, like have a back and forth. Maybe I'll start it on there. Maybe you'll join. That would be great. Maybe that's something that brings you onto the community because it's just a much better place to talk polling. Twitter's not built for that kind of stuff. To discuss statistics in general. It's just not built for it. Like, I tried to explain the methodology, which required math, of the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. It's impossible, even with the extended amount of characters. I ended up just putting it on Locals and then on Twitter saying, here's a link to Locals, read it and read it thoroughly. It's still, it's the better vehicle. And it's also free speech. It's all about free speech. I do want to if you're having an issue viewing Rumble on Locals and then being in the live chat or something on Locals, let us know. We only heard that from one person, but that's why Laura ended the chat on on accident early, didn't realize it wasn't like that a problem with that post. If everyone else is having that issue, please let me know. Because in case you haven't noticed, I've been sharing the Rumble video more than the YouTube video on Locals when I put that up. Because Locals is going to have they're going to be working together. Not like a business partnership, but they're going to collaborate to make content on Locals easier to view on Rumble, more accessible. So we might as well get used to it now. And to hell with the former digital block known as YouTube, formerly known as YouTube. To hell with them. They want to play these games. I never know this is going, then fine. We'll evolve like we always evolve. All right, we'll be back in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You're watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We'll do a live chat on Locals later. That's a good idea, folks. All right, welcome back. Watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. The first hour down, second hour up. All right. I did want to go over real quick, just show people, which I did have questions on. Looks like the Trafalgar poll. And the reason why I want to do that is soon as I got a call from CD Media today asking me if we would poll Virginia. And I told them that the election is coming up. So if we're going to poll it, we need to poll it. And you know how I feel, speaking of methodology, about the quality of responses over different days of the week versus the quality. Okay. And I will not poll an election only during the week anymore. I'm just not doing it. When we analyzed the responses last cycle, there was without a doubt a liberal lean depending on the day of the week, right? In fact, there was a liberal lean almost every day, and there was I think I would say there is, but there was a larger liberal lean in the raw data depending on if it was a weekday versus whether it was a weekend. And there is without a doubt a relationship. I mean, I could show it. I think we've gone over this, or we haven't. Yeah, we did. We used Wisconsin. You show how badly. As bad as the Wisconsin plus 17 was by Langer Research for ABC, the Washington Post, or whoever it was. Yeah, we did that when we did Gen Pop polling, right? Yeah. Then basically, I can actually, as bad as it was, I can basically still believe how they could have gotten it if they made a few errors. And they're bad errors, and they should have looked at it and said, "This is bad. The quality of this data is not good enough to release to the public." But it fit their ideology. It fit their narrative. It helped Joe fundraise, so they put it out anyway. And when we were doing Wisconsin, I think I picked Wisconsin because this happened in Wisconsin. And I said, folks, we're not there yet. We need central, northwest counties, some of those southwestern counties closer to Iowa. We're not there yet. We didn't get enough. We're not better. We're not represented. If you rush it, you could see how it could all go to hell in a handbasket. But Trafalgar did, and they pulled Virginia, and they pulled it over a couple of days. Let's see, that was the 11th through the 13th. So during the week, right? The 11th. Let me bust out my calendar. Hold on one second. I don't want to see something about somebody's methodology unless I confirm this here. All right, the 11th was Monday through Wednesday. And they yet still found Glenn Youngkin with a slight lead if you round, really not much. 48.4 for Glenn Youngkin versus 47.5 for Terry McAuliffe. Roanoke has a 7-point lead for Terry McAuliffe. Interesting enough, they have a 7-point Democratic bias. All right, so that would be about even. Now, some others have McAuliffe ahead. I think it's clear, even though that Virginia has been leaning to the left, I think it's clear that polling has been, at least maybe not the final average. This is why I always will caution people about RCP. Not only because they're averaging polls with different methodologies and different sampling, different errors, and they're not even, one has a confidence interval, one has a sampling error, one's opt-in, one's random, one's voter file based, one's random digital dial. I mean, you can't do that. You cannot do that. Years ago, the idea of averages was great. Now, there's really no statistical argument for it. Not a sound one. Anyway, another reason is that it is very clear, and I like Tom. I love what he's doing. But it's very clear, even though he shows me no love, it's very clear. It's true. I mean, at this point, it's got to be kind of embarrassing to watch your average lag us by weeks, even month or two. I mean, it's got to get.
We leave you in the dust.
Sorry we leave you in the dust, but that's on you. You could have called me at any time. We could have had a gentleman conversation, and about methodology, and instead you chose to follow the crowd, and that's sad. That's very, very disappointing, especially since it's been many years since you decided to do so, and I keep outperforming you. Okay, so looking at the report from Trafalgar.
You're killing my muscles.
Looking at the report from Trafalgar, they have, and I'll you know what, I'll put this in the thing for you guys. So I want to bring on Dawn, so I'm not going to pull this up. But there's the Trafalgar poll. All right, you guys can take a look at it. Response rate about 1.46%. That's another thing. We can increase our response rate based on the window in which we poll on certain days. So it all sucks and it's all low, but we can still do a little bit better. But he's got 1,095 respondents. That is good for the state of Virginia. They're likely, which means he oversampled. And now you're seeing that 1,095 is likely. He probably spoke to 14 or maybe 15. I'm not going to, but bottom line is margin of error, 2.96. Confidence is, he's at a 95% confidence interval. Response distribution, 50%. And you could read more about their methodology there. If the election for governor were held tomorrow, who are you most likely to support? Blah, 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 blah. Let's go down. Joe Biden's approval is 40% approve, 58% disapprove. If that's really true, then Terry McAuliffe is going to lose this election. If Joe Biden is that badly underwater, then the history of Virginia's voting, which is that if the president's unpopular in Virginia in the first term, then in that gubernatorial election, that party loses. That has been Virginia's history for a long time. Now, they made universal mail-in voting permanent here. There's a caveat. Do you remember a very pilled out Bob Beckel in 2014?
Oh, I do.
Just absolutely blowing them up on live television on Fox
about
News.
Virginia and how they roll.
Bob ate too many oxys that night.
Sure did.
He did. And he's sitting there. Dana Perino was like, I told you this would be... I told you, ladies and gentlemen, this would be a sleeper race, and it was closer than everybody thought. Right? And it was going to be closer than everybody thought. But Ed Gillespie was still ahead of Mark Warner by a very tight margin, and Fairfax County was saying they were like 90-something in. And in a normal situation, I probably still wouldn't do it. At least the margin Ed had. But here's Bob Beckel. Now Mark's going to pull it. He's going to pull it out. We've been here before. All of us who've been in this business know. I've been in Northern Virginia for years, and we're going to find the ballots. Don't worry. We're just trying to... I mean, that's what he basically said.
We
wait till the end. We hold them back so we know how many we need. That is what he said. And it was like, whoa, Brett Baer's like, uh-oh. You know what I mean? Oops, cat out the bag. Cat out the bag. Somebody get the cat. The cat is out the bag. Then Bob Beckel was, it all went downhill for Bob on Fox after that.
Yeah, it sure did.
Although there were people who said, addiction is a horrible thing, and it can, definitely change your mood. So it must not have been easy to work with either. But it certainly doesn't help your prospects in a media career when you go out and say things that are blacklisted phrases. You're not blacklisted ideas, viewpoints. When you are interviewed on a cable network, news station, whatever it may be, there are things you can say and things you can't. And that is one of the things you cannot say. And Bob Beckel just accidentally perked his way right into it. I mean, anyway, Northam is not doing much better than Biden. 42-50. Approved, disapproved. So he's disapproved plus 8. And then that school thing, which we would poll as well. Recently, Terry McAuliffe said in a debate, I don't think parents should be telling schools what they should teach. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? We would actually play them that segment. So that exchange, other than simply, we would likely play them what happened during the debate and then ask them whether they strongly, just like he did. Likert scale, he did great here. No opinion was 8.4, but only 37% agreed with what Terry McAuliffe said. 54.4% disagree. It really is all about Loudoun County, folks, which just so happened to have this sexual assault scandal, which maybe I'll talk to Don about. But age distribution looks good. It's a little white, but that's not really. I mean, it's a midterm, so it's good. Ethnicity looks good. Party affiliation is skewed to the Democratic candidate pretty heavily by about 8, D plus 8. I'm not sure we're at D plus 8 anymore. Biden won it by they had 10 points. But since then, in the voter file modeling, because there's no voter registration, inference has moved to the Republicans. And we had our D plus 4 to 8s in Virginia. If something happened, something is happening. And you know that from the modeling. All right, let me see if my good friend Don is ready to come on yet. Another good question. Another good discussion. I mean,
Looks like he's ready.
Yep, he looks like he's ready. There's my good friend Don Smith from the Don Smith Show.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, Don? Thanks for being on again, my friend. How was your week?
Pretty busy. So good stuff, though. So we got some big announcements coming up here soon, and getting ready to launch a campaign. So out of California. So looking forward to that. And yeah, I've been keeping pretty busy this week.
Of course, I know. Of course, I know.
You do,
but we're not allowed to talk about it right now.
Right.
We
are.
Keep an eye on Don. He'll tell you the deal.
We are filed, bank account, everything's set up, and just doing the announcement here early this coming week. So, yeah, a lot of exciting stuff going on.
Keep an eye on Don's local page, Twitter feed, and he'll keep you posted on that, ladies and gentlemen. I do know, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut. And then, let's see, Don. This Loudoun, I'm looking at this Virginia race. Mm-hmm. And to me, Virginia ultimately flipped Democratic because of Loudoun County. Loudoun County is what was a Republican county for years, and they gave it's populated. They gave Republicans the cushion to offset Fairfax County, and the West would be not totally offset them, but enough to get the Western vote in striking distance and then put them over the edge. Once Loudoun County went Democratic, which happened after Bob McDonnell carried Loudoun County overwhelmingly in 09. Once that happened, that is what gave Democrats the edge, and I can't help but to look at what is going on in Loudoun County right now and wonder whether we could see one of those even though the demographics have changed, and we've done whole episodes on it, I can't help but to wonder, Don, whether Loudoun swings. I almost only want to pull Loudoun County.
Yeah. Look at all the insanity going on in Loudoun County. I mean, geez, the school board stuff, the McAuliffe thing, to come right out and say parents shouldn't be involved in these decisions. And he actually carried on in that comment and said that he's sick and tired of parents coming to these school board meetings and getting involved. And this is what everybody should actually want. I mean, right? You should want the parents to actually get involved. And I'm telling you, we've talked about this since the beginning of the pandemic. You and I have talked about what's happened during this pandemic, and it's the worst possible thing for the education system because parents now know what's going on with their kids in school because they are involved. So the insanity, did you see this thing with him yesterday attacking the reporter who didn't have a mask on outside? And oh my, I mean, in normal sane times, Rich, I mean, we go back in this political stuff a long time. In normal sane times, that would have ended it right there. That would have been it. The comment
it's a disqualifier. It would have been a 20-point swing and it would have been over.
Think about this. Northam. Here's a guy who to this day doesn't know whether he was the guy in the Klan outfit or he was the guy in blackface. This was his defense. But think about this. His popularity shot up after that, even amongst the black community. So these are not normal times. Everything's bizarro world. And I think Loudoun County is just an incredible example of that.
Yeah, I have to explain that to people. And, I think it goes back to the first hour of the show, which is that now we are looking at, look, it's inherent to one side. Alabama still voted for Doug Jones, right? It was a disqualified candidate, and Alabama Republicans said, sorry, I can't do it. Even though, of course, I am partisan. Of course, I'm Republican. I cannot vote for this man, right? Because they viewed him as disqualifying. Madison County, areas where, what's his name? Who will be the next senator, by the way, of Alabama. Oh my goodness, my brain is frying right now. Mo Brooks, thank you. You've been
Brooks,
Mo.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mo Brooks would have done phenomenal. That's his backyard. That's where his congressional district runs through. And there are some moderate Republicans, like, Shelby definitely hurt Roy Moore with that. He had a lot of pull. But the bottom line is that there are, and I get the busing in. I get that, David. But the bottom line is there are enough votes in Alabama to offset any shenanigan. I mean, there are just enough Republican votes. What happened is Republicans put aside their ideology and voted against the guy that they deemed to be disqualified. Whereas Democrats won't do that because they're ideological fanatics. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not. It is a reality now. It's the numbers, guys. Yeah. I just showed you the abortion thing. You have no idea whether or not you support a late-term abortion or a heartbeat or what, but you call yourself pro-choice, then why are you calling yourself pro-choice if you don't know the answer? Because you were told to call yourself pro-choice. And the truth is you haven't thought much about these issues. You're less informed. That's the truth. And, we're going to have to start talking a little bit more plainly about this stuff because the hour is late, my friend, and the same is true of all these other things. Look at George Stephanopoulos is actually going to softball interview Christopher Steele over the weekend in this documentary. We all already know George Stephanopoulos is a hack. He's a political actor. He is not a journalist. And he will try to put a spin on something we all know to be true, which is that Christopher Steele handed in a garbage, false dossier pretending it was an intelligence document. But yet, there are tons of people that are anti-Trump who still believe that dossier is true. And they will try to actually perpetuate the lie that some of the things in the dossier could be true because they haven't been discredited. No, you have to substantiate, not discredit. It's the wrong, and then the same thing with, look, Don, look. I'm just going to prove my point right now. Where's that Gallup graph? Here we go. That's it. Enough said.
Mhm.
Enough said. This is what you think because you're uninformed. You are not informed. End of story. And that's just I'm getting over it. So that's why we're not in these normal times because 25% of Democrats wouldn't vote for Ronald Reagan right now like they did in 1980. A huge percentage saying results are results. Carter is weak. Carter is incompetent. He's gone. You know what I mean? You can't get those numbers now, Don.
Yep. Yeah, it's the whole thing that I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That if you're on the left, you think you're in this club. Like you're part of this club. You're not part of the club. These people despise you. They have great disdain for you. And I'm talking about the Democrats against their own constituents. You are not in any club. Look at this. What's going on with what's in the bill? They want to pass this $3.5 trillion bill. Look what's going on there. You've got people who are supporting this, checking out your bank accounts. Every transaction, $600 or more.
$600.
That's got nothing to do with Jeff Bezos or the billionaires, or I guess according to Biden, the trillionaires now. I guess we've got trillionaires now in his mind, in his creepy old demented mind. But you've got people on the left who are supporting this just because it came from the Biden administration. This is you too, people. What's going on in the school systems, this impacts your kids too. They don't care about your kids. There's a thing out here today, as watching the show, I'm looking at the headlines. There's a thing out now where the Biden administration just unleashed a 40-page document about how they want to take control of people's retirement accounts. To mitigate against a climate change crisis. Folks on the left, that's you too. Do you want this guy who can't even walk up a set of stairs? You want him handling your retirement account? Go ahead, but leave mine alone. Get the government the hell away from mine. You're supposed to be worried about, the Democrats or Republicans want to get in your bedroom and tell you what to do. These people are taking over your finances, and you're okay with it just because you're ideologically on the left.
And a step-up tax. Are they out of their minds? Mileage taxes and step-up taxes after the economic news that I just rattled off in the first 20 minutes of this show? For those who don't know what a step-up tax is, I die. I leave my kids the house, all right? Mm-hmm. I paid, to make math easy here, $100,000 for my house, all right? The house is now worth $500,000. They must pay the tax on the $400,000 gain, all right, before they're allowed to take possession of the house. That's how wealth has been built in this country. That is what makes us a wealth creation. That is what created a middle class for the first time in human history. It's incredible. And they would kill that, Don. In an instant, and then tax you by mileage.
It's what created corporate farming. I'm from a Midwest town where everybody was a farmer, and not everybody, but I had a lot of friends. I went to school with a lot of friends who were farmers, and they had these farms for years, passed down through generations to the families. They can't keep the farm anymore. They have to sell it to a corporation because it's for the same thing you just mentioned, the step-up tax. That was called the death tax, where they're going to charge you what the worth of the property is. You've got to pay that. They don't have that money. They're farmers. So we have corporate farms. When I drive back to my hometown now, it's all corporate farming. All my friends whose families had farms, they don't have farms anymore. They sold them to these corporations, and now they're big, giant corporate farms. Look what's going on right now with Big Pharma. Remember, I'm old enough to remember 18 months ago when Big Pharma was bad. Now we love Big Pharma. Everybody's got to get the jab. We need boosters for the rest of our lives. So Big Pharma is great now.
Did you see the video of Pfizer Senior Director of Worldwide Research, Vanessa Gelman, running from Project Veritas?
In all fairness, Rich, I think she was just in training for the next Boston Marathon. But I did see the video though. She's pretty fit.
She'll be in the one with the shirt wearing the sign, of advertising for jabs. Even though, according to federal law, and like you said, 4 years ago, Big Pharma was the enemy. If the roles were reversed, you would be hearing the left make this criticism, but it's 100% true. how the hell they've been able to do these advertisements since the product on the market was not approved, FDA approved.
Yep.
And in fact, it's still not FDA approved. Not the product on the market. There is no FDA approved product on the market. That is a reality. That is a fact. The bottom line is the law states you're not allowed to advertise unless it is FDA approved. So how did all these Walgreens commercials, how did all these CVS commercials, how are all these public service announcements, the billboards, the this, the that, the other, blah, blah, blah. How did this happen, Don?
Yes.
And if the left was the left they were 4 years ago, they'd be crucifying these people.
Yep. The left,
quite literally, probably.
We know this. The left right now in America wants to be lied to. Let me correct that.
Yeah, they want to be lied to.
No. The left in America needs to be lied to. They need to. Please give me something to make this okay, because I know this is wrong. But if you tell me something, I don't care what it is, however unbelievable. Look what they did with the ports. So here Biden comes out. What is he going to do to alleviate the port situation? He's going to increase the hours that they work on the docks. The problem is truckers. He's already said that. It's truckers.
Where are they going to go?
So you can unload the stuff off the ships faster. You know what he wants, and you know what the left wants?
To take over the transportation.
They want those ships gone. So they're not on Fox News every single day. Look what they did with the Del Rio under the bridge. They just wanted those people gone. They don't care where they go. They don't care if they've got COVID. They don't care anything. Yeah. They want the visual. They want the optics to go away. That's why they hate Fox News.
11 miles worth of tanker and cargo ships off the port of Los Angeles, and this hack piece of garbage takes a vacation.
Maternity leave.
He hasn't even been freaking working that long.
It was maternity leave. Apparently it was a very difficult birth for him and his husband.
Don, this is freaking insanity.
It's nuts. It's nuts.
It's crazy, man. It really is nuts. And yet, here we go. Look at the CPI, folks. Let's show it again. There it is. What do you see is the main driver of that gain? We haven't seen inflation sky. The rate that it is ascending, Don, is scary. Look at it. Yeah. That's the entire index history. Here is the 1 year. And I did this on purpose to show you that it had, if you go back to all, it dipped it dipped during the shutdown. It rebounded during the shutdown, but it rebounded, if you look at the 1 year, and held steady at a normal kind of average 0.2 gain each month. That is normal. And it only skyrocketed after Joe. I mean, it's like the next month. It doubles. And then from there, doubles again. And then it has been on this skyrocketing rate of ascension ever since. And first it was the highest rate in the highest single month gain in 4 decades. Then the next month, the highest single month gain since last month in 3 decades. I mean, and now this month is the highest gain since the 1980s before Reagan fixed it. Or Reaganomics fixed it, I would say. Reagan, that's the genius of it. He really didn't do much. He just knew to get out of the way. He just take the boot off the neck and let them go. They'll fix it themselves. That's how America works. You got that for Don and I, Laura? You said you had a dual one? Yes, throw it at us. Throw it at us.
I'll throw it at you.
Man, I need some more coffee. Right, man, so Laura's like, I can't throw anything right now.
Such is life.
Although she is motoring. She's getting better.
It's called the Laura Shuffle.
The Laura Shuffle, I call it. Like the Biden Shuffle. Remember the Biden Shuffle?
Oh, my goodness.
She does that, only her neck isn't protruding forward like a geriatric 110-year-old man.
So instead he wins the race, dang it.
I was just at this synagogue the other day with this guy talking about this mass shooting. No, that never happened. Yeah. I mean, guys just fabricate stuff. Go ahead.
Used to drive an 18.
Hold on. Go ahead, Tom. Finish that.
If the problem is really a trucker shortage, think about this. We have the first
Joe Biden
time
can do it.
Exactly, the first time in the history of this country that we have a president that can actually step in and make a difference. He'll be really good at it too.
We might as well laugh because it's so bad, and it's on the worst is yet to come.
Oh yeah.
This is nothing. All you see right now are the flashing red lights. Go ahead, on.
All right. So Jay wants to know a question for Don and Rich about Democrat voters leaving permanently. Also, he hopes that Rich talks about Zuckerberg and Facebook's antics in the voter
Yeah.
fraud.
Well, Don, you and I have been talking about that for months. Barnes and I on What Are the Odds? This was like a conspiracy theory 8 months ago that Zuckerberg basically bribed not just election officials, but urban in Democratic areas. What he basically did was give them advantages in that it was Don, if you ask me, it's anti-American because it's anti-equality.
Right.
Everything from souls to the polls, everything from the distance in which, and it's not just distance, per capita, how many drop boxes certain areas had versus others. The whole damn thing was rigged.
Yep.
And he bribed these officials to do that. And 8 months ago, when we were all talking about it, PolitiFact was fact checking us, telling us everyone we're lying. This is nuts. No, we were not lying. It was the truth. It was the truth a month or two before the election when we were screaming about it. It's the truth now. And then what was the first thing? Because I don't know. I'll give Don a chance to crack at Zucker. Go ahead, buddy. What do you think about that? Serious. It's like anti-equality.
Big tech has been controlling this country for a number of years now. This should not shock anybody that they're this deeply involved in everything that's going on, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get a whole lot worse. What was this deal with the big whistleblower here? Come on. Well, that was like jeepers criminy. Everybody, wake up! Wake up! These people are controlling everything. They're shutting down the president of the United States. Remember. Jen Psaki, a month and a half ago, stood up there with the Surgeon General and talked about controlling information. And who was she calling on? Zuckerberg. Taliban Jack, all these people. She wants them in control of this stuff. Why? Because they're on their side. It's just like the media. It's no different than the media.
Going back to 16, when on PBD, I think our coverage really did try to raise awareness to what we had seen was going on at that point. How it could you could easily see it evolve into a fascist-like system where they're using the power of big tech to aid a certain political party, the government, the state, and that is fascism by definition. And Sheryl Sandberg giving Hillary Clinton private Facebook data on specifically women to persuade women was a red flag. She used company resources to help her personal preferred political candidate. And man, that already was dangerous. And it was not a small leap, Don. It really was not a small leap to see how you could get from there. And what was the first part of that?
About Democrats leaving permanently.
Oh, Democrats leave. Don, I'm sure because I know you've talked to a lot of people in Wisconsin, right about this. Democrats leaving permanently. We'll see how we'll see how it goes from this point going forward. But I think the era of Donald Trump took a lot of working class Democrats, and as long as Republicans maintained the course, they turned them into Trump voters, and now that means they're Republican leaning, but not totally on the bandwagon yet. They voted for Bernie in 2016, but abandoned him in 2020 because they had just decided, Trump is my guy, so the hell with Bernie. Those people, and more. When we were talking about these voters, are these voters look at Jasper County. This is what was important about the special election in Iowa on Tuesday. Okay. Republican John Dunwell freaking clobbered Steve Mullen, the Democrat. He got almost 60% of the vote, Don. In a damn seat, Republicans have not been able to wrestle control back, even though we've seen these trends. How long was that seat in Democratic control? 46 years.
Oh, at least.
46 years, right? But if you look at Jasper, Obama carried, because that Jasper is a large part of the seat. 7.5% Obama carried it by in 2008. Mitt Romney comes along, shaves, guys, 0.43% off of Obama's margin. Obama won this state, but 6-point difference between 2008 and 12. He beat McCain by 12 points. He beat Romney by 6. And yet Jasper barely budged at all. And then Trump comes in 2016 and swings the state, swings the county 25 points and carries it by 18. In 2020, he he pops another 5 points on that margin and wins it by 23. I mean, damn, Don. I mean, this is the idea that really shows you the Mitt Romney, never Trump wing of the Republican Party cannot compete in the Midwest. Jasper is a perfect county to illustrate this. They couldn't take that district, my friend.
Yep.
No matter forget about the county by McCain and Romney, and if it was John Kasich in 2016, he'd have freaking lost Jasper too.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't continue in this direction, those Democrats will not be permanent Republicans.
Right. Yeah, and I think as far as Democrats leaving, I think there's going to be certainly a case here for the midterm elections. You're certainly going to have a lot of Democrats who they see what's going on. I mean, the administration can say whatever they want. They can spin it however they want. People see it, and people are starting to feel it now. That's when it becomes a real issue. But so I think for the midterm, I think, you're going to have a lot of those Democrats that go, because maybe they are real moderates and those kind of things. But I don't know. You always have to reset everything when you get back to a presidential election. So do they go back? It's going to depend on the candidates and everything that's going on there. But I think for the midterms, definitely a lot of Democrats will vote Republican.
Yeah, I think that, this is why this fight with the Republican Party, whether they know it or not, is so important to resolve right now. Because these people, I mean, we talk to them all the time. These people don't know whether they'll vote Republican again. I mean, they have to earn it from them. But of course, they are leaning to it and they don't see the Democrats now suddenly reversing themselves and becoming the party of them again, then Southeast Ohio. That's not happening. It's just that they don't trust Mitt Romney any more than they trust Joe Biden. So, and did they trust Donald Trump? Yeah, kind of. Even though they may not have thought he was personally always speaking the truth, what they trusted him to do was what he said he would do. And that was all the difference in the world. You know what? He's tough, man. He's rough around the edges, but in the end, damn, that man does what he says. You know what I mean? That's it. And I trust him to do that. Scott Walker, same magic, by the way. He had that same magic. I can't tell you how many Democrats, about 7%, in fact, of the whole electorate, of these voters who voted for Obama and were like, I like Scott Walker. I believe Scott will do what he says he will do. I can always count on Scott to come down where he says he's going to come down. Not like Mitch McConnell. The single biggest hindrance to the Republican Party's success, and of anyone, there is no single person more dangerous to the political viability of that party than Mitch McConnell, their current majority leader in the Senate. Nobody's done more to sabotage and wreck what is popular and what is popular and what is even viable. There's so many of these promises that they made in the past weren't even viable, Don. At least everything Donald Trump said he could do was viable. And you didn't have to do that. I mean, this girl is doing too much. She's feeling better. And I want to go pumpkin picking on Sunday. And I'm good with that as long as she watches it. But she's uppity and, moving around. And I fear that she's just doing too damn much too soon. I would have let that thing ring. Nothing was going on out there is that important. You know what I mean? The hell with that. And here is really where it comes from. Romney, Biden, Pelosi, McConnell are all the same uniparty, corrupt, evil scum. That's it. Evil scum. That's how people see it. I'm not joking. It's how people see them. It is.
It's true.
And that's why all their favorability ratings keep coming down where they come down. What was Mitch McConnell's? We didn't do it last time, right? But we did it the time before that, right?
I do have to give the turtle credit for one thing, though, and that's Merrick Garland, keeping that guy off the Supreme Court. I gotta give him credit for that. Nothing else, but that's all I got. But it's always the same thing,
I'll
Rich.
give him that.
It's the lack of leadership. It's the lack of ability to communicate. Look at all the things that are in the dumper right now. Where's the leadership out here going, see, look at this, boom, 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 and offering solutions. People want solutions. People want leadership, and they want solutions.
This is the last time we had Mitch McConnell's favorability rating, which we're going to put in again in this latest one that we're going to be doing. BigDataPoll.com /public polling project. that will redirect you to where you need to go. There's also the form link, but you guys can do that.
Who are the 6%? Very favorable.
It's incredible.
Has he got a large family or something?
You want to look by party? Because that's the coolest part. If you go by party detail, who is it? It's not Republicans. It's about the same amount of Democrats said it than Republicans. Nobody likes this freaking guy, bro. 1.4% of independents. 5.2% of third parties. Again, if you combine those together, 2.2% of independent others have a very favorable opinion of this chode. I mean,
oh my goodness.
I mean, could you work at being a bigger loser? Is it possible to, guys? I've never seen numbers like that before. Very unfavorable altogether is 37.1 and somewhat 22.5.
Yep.
The problem is, Don, is that very unfavorable number. It's not as bad as Pelosi's, but combined, it's slightly altogether higher unfavorable than Pelosi. She gets away with it because if you go to hers, anytime now database, people are probably searching it, but hers, you'll see the Democrats rally around her. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't have these ugly numbers among her own party. Mm-hmm. And I may have to actually refresh it just to get the whole damn thing. Anytime now. All right, I'll stop sharing it, and then we'll
you done did it.
Full screen layout. No, remove. I done got rid of it before it done did it us. I knew that circle meant the circle of death. My nose piece came off. Yeah, phenomenal. Yeah, I'll go grab one in a second. But yeah, that usually means the end of it. And if I was lucky to be able to get out of that in time before it froze. But the bottom line is, Democrats don't have such a low opinion of Pelosi the way that they have a low opinion of McConnell. Mm-hmm. So it's Republicans and independents. Their very unfavorable number of Pelosi, he's at 37. She's at like half very unfavorable. Mm-hmm. But then her somewhat unfavorable is lower. I think she was at 45, I think. So she has the highest very unfavorable, but not combined unfavorable. So that's McConnell's. That's McConnell. And Schumer is unfavorable, but not that bad. I mean, for a senator in this climate, a position of leadership, not that bad at all. And it's like, at least they have something they can tout in those numbers. There is no good news in McConnell's or what's his name, McCarthy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course that was. Oh, so I swear to God, that was an accident. That was a slip. I swear. I mean, the guy is not equipped to lead this party into this new era we were just talking about. He's not. How do you think the people of Jasper County, both Jaspers, by the way, two that matter, one in Indiana and one in Iowa, how do you think the people of Jasper Counties, Iowa, Indiana, feel about Kevin McCarthy, Mr. California?
They don't like him. I mean, the guy has no leadership. Probably feel the same way about him that they did with Paul Ryan. It's a lack of leadership. They don't capitalize on opportunities. There are, my goodness, there are so many opportunities right now to capitalize on from a messaging standpoint to say, look, here's what's happening here. Here's what we need to be doing. And they just don't do it. They just, there's no leadership at all. And that's what people want. People want this is what the big thing about Donald Trump was in 2016 was the leadership of the GOP did not want him. But we still got him anyway. The people stood up and they said, yeah, the heck with you guys. We're sick of getting handed the McCains and the Romneys and nope, we want this guy. And there was nothing they could do to stop it because they're not even powerful enough to influence their own party.
In fact, they were so right. In fact, they were so unpopular that because they didn't want him, it boosted him.
Yep.
And here, the difference in Pelosi, very favorable with Nancy Pelosi. I mean, a third over slightly,
Holy
a third
cow.
of the party view her very favorably. And then over another third view her somewhat favorably. A very small percentage. Well, not, 2 out of 10 is not very small, but actually it's closer to a quarter. But the
Mhm.
bottom line is, it's a lot less than we see with Republicans and their leaders. And 44.3%, so I was close. I thought it was about 45. Viewed her very unfavorable, but you could see her party circling the wagon.
Mhm.
Whereas that doesn't happen for McConnell and McCarthy. And I think you nailed it. It really comes down to leadership, even though they know these people are pieces of trash. They
Mhm.
know Nancy Pelosi is an elitist snob, piece
Yep.
of trash who got rich off of insider knowledge from her
Mhm.
being a member of the House of Representatives.
Yep.
All right. The worst kind of person, the
But
worst kind of public servant. They know that, but she does their bidding. So they
she,
let it go.
what people want, ideological people, what they want is they want that red meat. And so when I say McCarthy doesn't provide anything, there's no examples. There's no, hey, check this out. This is what we should be doing. You're feeding your base with what they want to hear which is solutions. So when I say red meat, I'm not even saying that negatively. I'm saying she provides that leadership for them. Look at the thing with the press conference earlier this week. And she got asked about the $600 that we talked about, monitoring people's bank accounts. Did you see the disdain she had for that question? The question was prefaced with, people are concerned. People, average American people, are concerned that you're going to be checking out their bank accounts. She starts shuffling papers. It was her let them eat cake moment. It was screw them. I couldn't care less what their concerns are. Big deal. She basically called everybody a tax cheat. Every single American citizen is a tax cheat, so therefore they have to monitor your accounts because you're not capable of doing things the right way. And they still love her.
And I tell you, you just talked about examples. Perfect example, just this debt ceiling versus infrastructure fight.
Mhm.
Republicans were thrilled that they were holding firm. I'm talking about Republican voters. They were thrilled that they were holding firm and blocking this stuff. And what happens? Team McConnell and his band of merry crooks come and they take the wind right out of the sails. They're doing everything they possibly can to demotivate their base ahead of an election they should easily win. They're thinking this is going to be a la 10, a la 14. And even though they don't come through stopping Obamacare, reversing Obamacare, that's still the base is going to come out for them. And, that's not a comparable situation. Not to mention there are so many states that made universal voting permanent. So you're going to need a enormous coalition to be able to overcome all of these structural challenges you now face. And the problem is they have their heads up their butts. I don't think they see them. McConnell, when I said it before, I could have pointed to myriad reasons. Nobody stopped the Trump agenda more than McConnell did. The parts that were deeply popular that he disagreed with, and he made sure they didn't get a vote. So did Ryan when he had him as an ally. But even more recent, January 5th, that was a bad day for his party because of him. End of story. I mean, others who didn't fight in Georgia over election reform. But McConnell, I saw certain poll tests on it, and it was bad. McConnell saying, no, we're not going to give you, those stimulus payments now. By the way, vote for our 2 crooks who insider trade just did not go over well with independents at all. And you had independents who didn't like that, coupled with Republicans who were demotivated, and it did him. It did him in. Yeah. So he lost his own majority. Nobody blamed for himself.
And that's a great example. So let's just take that example. So to my point, what the point I was trying to make is this is his chance to get up in front of the American people and say, okay, listen, here's what they're doing. The debt ceiling vote, they have changed it because they've passed everything else, not on 60 votes. Now it's got to be 60 votes because they want to make it about us. They want to scapegoat, use the same old holding the things hostage. Everybody's going to die, blah, blah, blah. He needed to get in front of the American people and say, you need to ask the Democratic leadership why they changed the rules for this vote and spark that conversation. But he didn't. He'd never explained it. He never said anything. Then he had to capitulate. That's your chance to message to the American people and tell them what they're doing. And he doesn't. They don't do that. They don't get up in front of people and say, here's the issue right here. Now it's got to be the Republicans that get involved to pass it in. But not everything else they didn't.
And
But you never
messaging,
did that.
repetition. But you can't even repeat. You can't even getting into repeating something so it sinks into the people's minds. You can't if you don't bring it up in the first place, my friend.
Indeed.
And the same stuff that they've been relying on. It's not only not. I mean, it wouldn't even save him in his own state for 10 years from now. I mean, he's lucky he just got reelected.
And let's be clear.
Thanks to Trump, by the way.
Let's be clear. The leftist media knew exactly what was going on. But they don't have to say anything. They don't have to ask any of those questions unless somebody brings it up. So
Don, I don't think you've done enough to sell my agenda for me, Don.
Exactly.
I mean, whoa!
Exactly. Yes.
You got another one over here? Come on, hit. You got a dual one, or just one that we both can weigh in on?
Got another duel.
Cool. All right.
All right. Drew Ear Spider wants to know. Question for Rich and Don. Why are there more COVID deaths in 2021 than 2020? Is it because of the leaky vaccines or other knock-on effects of the job? Can we even say that?
Let me just back you up 1 second. I've heard that claim before, but I actually haven't had a chance to check and see whether that's 100% true.
Right.
Because did you? I don't. I think that it probably is, but then it's getting mixed up with like people overlapping it with Trump's term, and I'm sorry, but I just don't want to speak on something I'm not fully 100% on. If you and burden estimates are constantly changed, like at the CDC, even a normal flu season. Forget about all of the tricks that we see with COVID numbers during a normal flu season, Dom. We see estimates shift a lot. But I can answer the general part of that question, Dom, which is if we started this year administering this vaccine, why the hell are there still so many deaths? And I'm trying to be careful on YouTube here.
And cases.
And they said, well, it was supposed to prevent serious disease. And that's not what the filing says. I'm just saying, maybe it does. I'm not arguing with whether it does or not. What I'm arguing with is the idea that this vaccination was supposed to prevent serious disease. Number one, would we still have that many deaths if it was true? And number two, the bottom line is that's not what the submissions to the FDA from Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, anyone who applied for anything. Nowhere in those submissions, folks, will you see that it reduces disease. They claim that it stops it because when they did this, it was only for alpha, and that's it. We didn't know of gamma. We didn't know of beta and all these other ones, the delta, lambda. We didn't know about them. I mean, I'm trying to be careful here, but I think you answered I think she answered her own question.
Yeah, and I've heard that claim too, and I haven't seen any data on that. I've been following the numbers through this pandemic.
I meant to double check it. I knew someone was going to ask me.
And maybe there is some data out there. If there is, I'd love to see it. But the bottom line is this: when it comes to the pandemic, is science. So the damage that was done to science over this whole climate change stuff, right? With everything was going to melt and the glaciers were going to go, all this stuff. They did so much damage to the credibility, the general credibility of science. But the damage they did, this whole thing finished it off with this pandemic. They have no credibility. So any of the things that they put out there, I don't believe any of it. Look, I heard you earlier. I heard you talking about the Dr. Gupta and Joe Rogan thing. I mean, look, folks, watch that.
Sanjay Booger.
The best part actually wasn't even when he hammered him on the lying on CNN.
Yeah.
The best part of it was earlier in that. If you saw it where
that's right,
where he was saying you're a 51-year-old man and you're completely comfortable with the virus because you're vaccinated, but yet you're saying kids who have a statistically significantly less chance of having any severe consequences, you're worried about them and they have to get it. And he's like, and he would not let him go on that. He's like, no. Why are you so comfortable being so statistically above the possibility of bad things happening than these kids, and yet you feel comfortable telling them what they need to do? That was actually the best part of it. But
he was so gentleman-like during the whole thing too.
He was.
That's what really I thought was effective, Don. He was not like them.
Yep.
He was simply being nicely putting the facts in front of their face, and
Yep.
they just couldn't. If they had an intellectual response, they would have given one. He would have given one. Fact is, he exposed him from what he is.
Yep.
A bought and paid for sale hack doctor in a white coat who primarily stuffs his pockets from a network who makes its money lying to people who want to be lied to.
Here's a comedian.
It was brilliant.
Comedian, talk show host, MMA guy, sitting with the chief medical advisor on CNN. And look at Dr. Fauci and compare him to Kyrie Irving or any of the other NBA players that are speaking out. Who looks more intelligent and who makes more sense? Think about that, America.
That's exactly right. I mean, and I said this earlier, and I will, bring this up with you. Where are the BLM protests for Kyrie Irving? Where are the since this is fascism? This is what fascism is.
Yep.
Economic definition of fascism. That's what it is. All right. But bottom line is, where are the anti-fascist groups here? All right. This is, to me, it's just, by the way, here it is. The fascist economic system in which the government controls the private entities that owns the factors of production. I mean, that's what's happening here. They're mandates. This all the four factors are, by the way, entrepreneurship, capital goods, natural resources, and labor. Central Planning Authority directs company leaders to work in the national interest. Sound familiar? Now, you can think about Nazis when you think of fascism, but the fact of the matter is Nazism was a very specific breed of fascism, which also injected a racial element. That's not fascism in and of itself. This idea where, like, if a country is inherently racist, they're fascists. Or if they hear something they think is racist, like Donald Trump, he's a fascist. No, even if he was racist, he's just a racist. He's not a fascist. Like, they're just so stupid. The fact is, it's ignorance. But I'm leaning towards stupidity because there's so much information, Don. It's almost like there's too much. But being stupid is when there is still information you're just incapable of learning. Ignorance is ignorance is that you would know it if you heard it and you're smart enough to know the difference, but you just don't know it. But now we are really in the realm of stupidity, because that's when you're just easily duped or you're just too dumb to understand the difference. Then you're stupid.
You want to be duped. That's the problem.
That's right. Or you want to be duped. Either way, you're stupid. You're not ignorant. You're stupid because you want to be lied to. Really, like I said, the sand is almost gone, my friend. I mean, it's getting really low. We might as well just start calling it for what it is at this point. You got another one? I mean, I wish I could have answered that one a little bit more thoroughly, but some people, we're still on YouTube. Eventually, I think we may cut the Q&A off of YouTube. I was thinking about that, like our Friday Q&As. I may just cut that off of YouTube like Allison Morrow did, because I don't want to. I was going to do like Allison Morrow, who cuts off after an hour or so and goes on to Rockfin and Rumble and whatnot. But I was kind of want to cut off half an episode. Maybe though for Q&A, it's time to be like raw, painfully honest and just raw. And the hell with YouTube for that last whatever it is of a Q&A. I don't know. It's an idea. It's been an idea kicking, to kick around. Go ahead.
So Brandon wants to know, will the Virginia election next month be a snapshot of the midterm elections?
Like I said, though, Don, the history is the history of Virginia. If that's true with that approval rating, then McAuliffe, by all accounts, should lose based on Virginia's voting history. However, and I mean going back forever, if the president's unpopular, then the party that the president is loses the independent vote in Virginia, mainly because of places like Loudoun, like we were talking about, and it ends up in like a Bob McDonnell like victory. That's the history of Virginia. However, they made, in an effort to stop history, in an effort to stop people from doing what they typically do, they made universal mail-in voting legal. So Is it a referendum? I'm almost like the rest of the country followed the normal pattern in last November. The states that didn't were the ones that implemented universal mail in the way that they wanted, and those verification procedures were not in place. There were never any verification procedures in Virginia to begin with in Fairfax County. So that was always a long time criticism from the Republican Party. They just were like neutered. They are not even neutered. At one time, they were dominant. They were inept. They were totally inept. They did nothing. I don't know. I mean, the fact is that Virginia has been getting more and more Democratic. The fact this is even a race is a problem for Democrats. That's the way I see it. I mean, it really is. And I do think Youngkin has a chance to eke it out. I do.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's an indicator, but I think too there's so much time yet. I'm talking midterms now. There's so much time between now and even the primaries. So I think the primaries will give us a better thing. But I want everybody to keep something in mind here. We went through this pandemic here. So, okay, look what the pandemic did to the voting landscape, right? To the landscape of election cycles in this country. That started in what, February, late January, the end of January, early February in the election year.
Yeah.
So that's how quickly the entire thing can be flipped on its head. That's how quickly, even if there's an indicator, and it's a strong indicator here with this election, there's so much time for these people to create chaos, to create a crisis, and to never let that crisis go to waste. And we should never put them past that, especially with all the debacles going on everywhere in this country and around the world. They're going to have to do something, because I believe they're very desperate, even more desperate than they were last year.
Amen. Amen. I think you really put that well. You know, it is a long time, and you really can't put anything beneath these people anymore. So, you know, don't count your chickens before they hatch. My old man used to tell me that. Richard, don't count your chickens before they hatch. That was like one of the best, right? All the time when I was a kid. One of the best pieces of advice. I'm telling you guys that now. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Even if Youngkin wins. Even if he wins.
Let me say one thing, because this is why this is so important, and this is why I say it all the time. You say it. A lot of us say this, and it's so important. People need to get involved. Get involved at your local level. Be like those school board parents. Be the person inside the polling station. My son, we just found out the other day, was just made the precinct captain in the state of Illinois for his precinct because he listened to that, and he said, you know what? I got to do something. So everybody can do this. Get inside of these polling places. Get involved in your school board. Get involved in all these things. And it gives them less ability to do what they did during the pandemic.
I just want to say that was excellent advice. I just want to say before we go, British lawmaker Sir David Amis he died, in case you guys did not see it. The police have arrested a 25-year-old man at the scene. He died from stabbing. He's a conservative member of parliament. We can't get any information on the suspect. I mean, not much anyway, that I'm willing to share. Every freaking time this happens, Don, guess what it is? Every time.
Every time.
And I don't want to sound like Potato Head at CNN, but there's a trend.
Potato.
I hope it was something random. I really hope this was not an act of political violence. Let's all, and even, by the way, I would kill for William Jefferson Clinton to be the president right now. I'm not even joking. That's where we're at. That's the danger we're in. I would kill for William Jefferson Clinton to be the president again, like it was in the 90s, and Newt Gingrich to be the speaker. I bet you the two of them could take us at least out of this hole, because they weren't particularly ideological. They were like common sense. Maybe Bill Clinton didn't want to be moderate, but he decided to be, and he is in the hospital. Send out a prayer for him, folks. Send out a prayer for him. I'm not asking you to pray for Hillary Clinton, for crying out loud, but the man did lead our country for 8 years. And did a lot better job than Joe Biden is doing right now. I mean, it's just, I think it's a fact. A fact. So these people take a risk when they get in. So I really hope this guy didn't get stabbed by some left-wing nutcase, or worse. Well, I don't know that there could be something worse, but it would bode even more badly for Britain if this turned out to be some like working class guy that lost his job because Britain's lockdowns have been so hard, he just flipped out. I mean, I worry about this stuff
Mhm.
because there's only so much. This is what our elite hasn't figured out yet. There's only so much people take.
Mhm.
You think you're exempt from history? Are you freaking stupid?
Mhm.
You're playing with fire here. There are millions of people and millions of families at stake. I
Mhm.
mean, eventually people just say, I've had enough. I have nothing to lose. I mean, they better take their heads out of their butts before they really drive us into a situation like that. And there are a lot of conservatives very disappointed with the prime minister and his government. Very disappointed. Like, how could you have been duped by some idiot who has an affair in the middle of a lockdown and has been pushing these crap models for 10 years? How could you be duped by somebody like this? And he did. Let's face it, Boris. You got railroaded, bro. Like
Yep.
Donald Trump got railroaded using the same idiot.
Yep.
I don't know, Don. I'll let you get your final thoughts though, because it is 10 after 1, and I'm gonna get the missus situated. What do you got coming up? Where can people find you? You
Don
know this,
Smith.
my friend.
Yeah, DonSmithShow.locals.com. Tomorrow, every Saturday, noon Eastern time. Check us out live. Get in the chat if you can. I always have great stuff going on in there, and it's a lot of fun to interact with everybody. We got Peter Hussey. Of course, my good friend Rich Barris will be on. I think you know him. And we got, right now, it looks like Gordon Chang on. I want to talk to him about what's going on with Taiwan. A lot of stuff going on there nobody's talking about. And of
We
course,
did that with George and Peter earlier this week. It's like, what the hell's
Yeah.
wrong with people?
yeah. And then, of course, the shipping stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
what's his take on all that stuff? He's got some always great thoughts on that kind of stuff. So Monday, we've got some great stuff coming up on the Generals show. So that's the Stand Up America US show with MG Paul Valley. That's going really well. The guy's doing a great job. I love working with the General. We got Roger Arnoff from Accuracy in Media. He's been in a lot of things. He's Citizens Commission on Benghazi. He was part of that as well. And then we've got Lori Dew. Lori Dew is a former Fox News.
Get out of here!
Yeah, really cool. She's got
Whoa!
she's got an amazing story about how she kind of pulled herself back from the brink, struggled with addiction for a number of years, and she's doing really well now. So looking forward to talking to her as well. So that's every Monday at noon Eastern time. You can find it all in my YouTube channel, Don Smith Show. So subscribe to that. Hit the subscribe button and give us some likes on those things. But tomorrow at noon Eastern time, DonSmithShow.locals.com. And we got some special announcements coming up here next week. Maybe we'll end up doing it on your show. We'll do the big announcement. We're working out the rollout right now.
That'd be cool, man.
It's exciting
That'd
stuff.
Be really cool. We'd love to do it.
And
you know what? Give Lori Dew my best. I'll tell you what. She, like Rush Limbaugh, incredibly brave woman.
Yep.
As somebody is telling you from personal experience, it is not easy to talk publicly about addiction and your experiences. And I'm familiar with her story, and I mean, I'm sure you'll pull a lot more details. But just good for her. Good damn for her. And Rush is gone now, so it was not easy for Rush to do what he did. And then came back stronger than ever, if you ask me. He really did. And I really do think that this is the way toward, society dealing with these problems, because they hit everyone. There's no family that has been left by, the scourge that is addiction, which is why, we really jumped the ball with the opioid crisis. Don't forget, folks, these very same white coats, the Dr. Guptas of the world, they are the ones who told us that Purdue Pharma and OxyContin were safe. Don't worry that there's a difference between dependency and addiction. And there is, but it doesn't matter. It leads you to the same damn place. These are the same guys who took out their notepads and got you hooked on a 30 or 40 count of Percocet. Maybe they started you out, your back hurt with a 30 or 40 count, of Percocet every month. And then that turned into a bunch of extended releases oxys. They took out their little notepad. They gave it to you while they got cruises. These are the people we're talking about. They're now heroes to everybody. Brilliant and honest. No. Not to me, they're not.
If I can, one more time, let me just say this. Watch the Joe Rogan thing if you haven't. The Joe Rogan.
Do it.
Do it. This guy knew more about the medical side of things. Joe Rogan knew more about the actual data, the actual facts than Gupta did. He goes,
totally agree.
Gupta goes, it's like 250,000 people have taken this. He goes, no, or billion. He says, no, it's billions. billions
Yep.
of people.
Yep.
And Goop is like, oh. So, yeah, look at the
Is it
Kyrie
really?
Irving thing.
And he's
Look,
like, then why is it in the National Institute of Health treatment list? It's is it?
that's something.
Incredible.
Be
Yeah,
careful who
Kyrie
you listen
Irving.
to.
Yeah.
Kyrie
I mean,
Irving versus Dr. Fauci. He knows more about natural immunity than Dr. Fauci does. It's insane times we're living in. But be careful who you listen to. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
lesson
right.
learned here.
Always remember, they're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They
Mhm.
never were. They never were. All right.
Mhm.
So let's time to come back.
Yep.
Come out of the panic-induced coma that you've been in. It's time before it's too late, and that's really where it's at. But good stuff, Don, as always, my friend. Good stuff. You've been putting out some good content. You really have.
Well, thanks.
And you look forward to more. I'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody. Bye, Laura.
He said, bye, Laura.
Bye,
She
Don.
just took her headset off. Bye, Don. Bye, Brenda.
Love you, Brenda. Love you too, Don.
Love you too.
And that is Don Smith, ladies and gentlemen. DonSmith.locals.com. DonSmith.locals.com. Don't forget it. All right. We're going to get out of here. But before we do, don't forget to tune into his show at noon Eastern time tomorrow. Stay tuned to my locals page to give you some more announcements about whether what's going on with this Virginia poll. That would be interesting. That would be for a client, which we say you always locals people, just so everybody knows what's going on. I don't like polling for media companies. I don't like it. But if I am doing this with locals now, and I've decided I get more out of it. I get more personal satisfaction out of doing it like I do. But if they're going to, and we come to an agreement, it has to be for locals too. All right, and I'm not talking about you get it like you get it with the public polling project before everybody does. That's just the terms I have to agree. They have to agree by, and that's it. Otherwise, it's no dice, no go. I don't need it.
No poll for locals, no poll for you.
No poll for locals, no poll for you. That's right. That's my girl. So with that in mind, keep an eye out. We'll talk about it. I definitely would give a prompt about McAuliffe's then. Maybe we can find something comparable with Youngkin, just to be fair. That would be great. But we'll kick around some ideas about, as a matter of fact, you can already go. I'll start a live chat after this. Give me a little bit. We'll pop a live chat in there, and I'd love to hear your ideas about what to include in Virginia. All right. And with that in mind, again, if you're not a community member at Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com. It's a revolution in data journalism. Look, you're just going to be able to see things they don't show you. You're going to be able to get insight they're not going to share with you, and you're going to get results before other people. All right. Along with some other goodies. You can still follow me on Twitter at peoples_pundit. We're a community, not a social media site. So let me just put that right. Let me just put that out there. That is truly a community, not a social media site. So think about that beforehand. All right. And Twitter is at peoples_pundit. Of course, still Getter. I'm on Getter now at peoplespundit. And if you like it, still YouTube, fine. We love the subscribes. We love the likes. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you like the show Inside the Numbers, like what are the odds, go ahead and subscribe to the People's Pundit YouTube channel. But we are now too on Rumble. That's why we've been sharing that link more and more. We'll always give you the option. All right. And thank everybody for the shares, the Rumbles, the likes, the whatever. If you dislike it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'm going to say this, and some troll is going to go do it now. You watch.
Okay, right.
On the 200th episode of Inside the Numbers on Wednesday, we had a 100% like ratio. Out of all of the views, out of all of the likes, we didn't get a single dislike on the video. Watch some asshat now go and give us a thumbs down. But I know 2 days later that we did. And that's awesome. That's one thing that really makes our channel special. We do not have the most subscribers, maybe just under 34,000. We do not have the most likes, whatever it may be. But what we do have is a ridiculously high watch ratio, a ridiculously high like to dislike ratio. If we had 1,000 subscribers, we get 400 views. If we have 35,000 subscribers on YouTube, we'll get 10,000 views. Whatever it may, we just these huge numbers. Where if you got 2 million somehow you're still getting the audience level of Inside the Numbers. It's awesome, which is what makes, by the way, for such a great locals community when you do come over and do it. It's really, I'll tell you what, it's more like an online family. You know, I'm not going to get all sentimental. Not on YouTube. I'll save that for locals. All right. With that in mind, everybody have a great weekend. For those who won't see us until Monday, stay safe as always. Happy holidays. I'm going to do some pumpkin picking, and it's going to be awesome. All right. Sorry, Joel. There it is. 34,800. Don't sell yourself short, Rich. Love you too, Joel. All right, guys. We'll see you on the flip side. Stay safe. Have fun. Enjoy the time with the fam. All the best. See you on Monday.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show